Hey everyone, Dan here. We are about a half hour before market close on Tuesday, June 15th. Today we're going to do an update on Workhorse. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And feel free to comment below as well. Thoughts, opinions, ticker ideas, those are all welcome things in the comments section. All right, let's jump right in. So Workhorse continues to get sort of this crushing short exposure in the marketplace, and as we know, it's bumped up to holds the coveted position of the second most heavily shorted stock at the moment, and so that's just obviously weighing on this one quite heavily. Basically the shorts jumped in when there was, the shorts had already been in, but they really piled on when this big run up happened here. And then you see retail tried to kind of come in and fight back a little bit, but since that secondary push up to 18 on the 9th, it's just been, it's not in free fall, but every time it tries to catch itself, it sustains that for a brief period of time and then falls to the next level. So unfortunately today it tumbled through my cautionary and stop loss zones, and so I thought we should at least take a look and see where some potential dip bounce zones might be coming. Dip sort of not into price strength, unfortunately, which is how I prefer to buy a dip on price strength, but this would be more in the territory of catching a falling knife, which is not preferable, but we will take a look for folks that are kind of trying to find a good entry point, who may still believe in the stock and want to get in and kind of try to run it back up. So in a minute we'll flip over and take a look at the short data as well to just sort of like get our bearings and see where we are with all that stuff. So these are the zones. I actually would prefer to put that one at the bottom of that small gap. These are the zones on the downside that I would look for as potential bounce zones. Typically I turn these bounce zones purple. So let's do that here so that we know what we're looking at in the coming days ahead for recaps and that sort of thing. And if it falls below that, it'll be a little bit in no man's land. Let's see if we have, we have plenty of previous price activity, as it got driven down to $7 there before. So plenty of additional activity to draw from. There's probably an additional level right underneath that 1255, but let's wait to draw any more out. So obviously, another way to look at this, if you take this slightly longer time frame, is there is a bit of obviously a big run up here in this green channel because it's going up, and then that essentially turned into this like selling off channel, which as you look at it on this time frame, it doesn't actually look that bad, but I'm sure it feels bad for folks that bought in at 15, 16, 17, 18 bucks. Obviously that's not ideal, and the fact that it's just being shorted by these institutions and hedge funds and stuff, and that's a big piece of why this is getting crushed. That just doesn't feel great either. But if we look at it from this perspective, you essentially have just a large run up and then a small pullback at the moment, if it can sustain this. And if it can work itself out of this down channel, we might see a nice push up as just sort of like a small retracement here, or a bull flag, if you will, that has been basically put into play. It's come down a little bit more sharply than I would have preferred, but it could still be pretty solid. Let's see what our levels look like here. If we take all the way up to the top of that wick there, so we're coming just below the 38.2 zone, and sometimes these don't hit these exact, obviously. So on the fib, we could see a little bit more stabilization around this area, if it's going to stick itself to the 38.2. Could come down to the 50, but I honestly don't think that that's really much of the play at the moment. I think it's more these supply and demand zones. But this would be my sort of like bullish scenario on Workhorses. Big bull flag, and this is just a brief consolidation getting us basically into parallel with all of this. Like, this was some crazy price activity. If you look in this box, I mean, this is just a really wild time with these huge wicks and small bodies. Those are huge price swings taking place and then settling in with a very small gain or loss for those candles. So those wild swings, pretty volatile period there. So it's just sort of like retraced back to that volatile period. And I'd be interested to see if it has some sort of like resurgence of volatility based on the previous price activity that we've seen at this zone. So that's what I'm going to be looking for in the days ahead. If we want to get sort of like bearings on what the indicators are saying, as you would expect, we're basically into oversold territory. Let's take the 1 month view on this. Okay, so basically in oversold territory, we're obviously oversold earlier today and now starting to rise back up. We do see a couple instances previously, but it's been a while since it got pushed truly into oversold like we saw here. But it did have a nice run up into overbought, ran itself from about $7 up to about almost $9, which is a good percentage gain, that's for sure, from oversold to overbought. So maybe I can have some buying pressure come in based on that alone. And on the MACD side of things, still in a bearish momentum, obviously. That should be apparent from just the chart in and of itself. May be seeing toward market close here bullish crossover coming into play. The MACD can slip itself over that signal line and push up. All right, so let's flip over to the short data. Obviously, Workhorse occupying this second position, over 40% of the float being shorted as of 5/28. We do see here there was a slight pullback, though the dollar volume increased. So total shares short decreased by about 2 million there, but because the price ran up, and that's where a lot of the shorts jumped in. I guess that would have been back here actually during this run up. Or actually during this run up here, because it's 5/28 data. So a bunch were piling in toward the end of this run up here, it looks like, based on this 5/28 data. And so the dollar volume sold short is higher, even though there was a slight pullback in the percentage. But look at how big these increases were, and then how small this pullback was. It's basically nothing. So to me, that is a pretty small. It's basically a non-factor. That level of pullback, it might as well basically be flat. That to me doesn't say that the shorts are kind of moving out of this one. Additionally supportive of that is that the short volume ratio is still well into the 20s, high 20s yesterday, the 20s the day before that, high 20s the day before that, in the 30s the day before that. 20s is very high, 30s is bonkers. So there's that's coming into play. And then beyond that, Fintel hasn't updated the fails to deliver data yet, but it is available on the SEC site. I haven't had a chance to parse through it yet. The zip file produces a text file, which is pretty messy looking, and I literally just downloaded it maybe 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, so it would take me some time to go through. I'm hoping Fintel just does the work and updates this relatively soon, but if not, I'll do my best to parse through it tomorrow and see what that fails to deliver data might be showing. We can do a quick refresh here on what's going on today. So the fee is, staying pretty low, still in the single digits, though it did creep up a little bit during the day today. If that's really going to have an impact, it would need to be about 5 to 10x that fee. But we do see from yesterday, where are we? From yesterday, there was a 200K loaned out by Interactive Brokers to short sell, and then an additional 50 ready to open. And we see at open today, this huge selling off, attempt to push back and then pull back further. So pushback ended a little after 10. So as we see here, additional shares coming out and then closing of positions probably profit taking by those short sellers, throughout the rest of the day. But no big, closing of positions, but there may be some sort of hidden closing and reopening of positions that exist within these piles of shares that you don't see the minutia of. Workhorse from the stats perspective, still showing essentially the same thing that we were looking at from the market beat sites. Almost 41 million shares short at the end of April, and then 45 million shares short at the end of May. But there is that reporting date in between, which market beat counts and Yahoo does not have in here. So that's where the slight decrease comes from the middle of May to the end of May. But nothing else in here that's wildly impactful for what we're looking at. So that's what I'm going to be looking for in the days ahead, essentially paying attention to, is this just a slight retracement here? Getting support, maybe this was that support, that near miss of the 1359 bounce zone that we saw here, but maybe it's able to work itself out of this down channel and make a push back up on another run into the 16s or higher. But it'll be telling days ahead. Certainly the shorts are still all over this one, and there's clearly a battle going on day to day, as we see in the short volume ratio. Well, good luck if you're in this one. I know it's been a little bit of a rocky ride, but I hope that you are making smart decisions and doing the best you can with the info that you have. All right, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.